Welcome all to this Armadale Regional Council meeting. We, the councillors of the Armadale region, declare that we will undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interests of our community and faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in us to the best of our skill and judgment. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. The Armadale regional community pays tribute to their love of land, love of people and love of culture. Now, this meeting is being audio and video recorded, and the recordings of the non-confidential parts of the meeting will be made available on the internet. No other persons are permitted to record the meeting unless specifically authorised by council to do so. Now, the people on Have Your Say, all speakers are requested to ensure their comments are relevant to the particular agenda item. The chairperson may withdraw the privilege to speak where a speaker makes personal remarks or criticisms or uses abusive or inappropriate language. Speakers do not enjoy any special protection arising from comments made during council meetings, and they should refrain from making defamatory remarks or personal defamatory statements against any individual. Could you all turn your mobile phones off, please, or into silent? Thank you. Councillors, I have an apology from Councillor Murat. Can I have a move and a second? Councillor Martin, Councillor O'Connor. All those in favour? Carried. Councillor Martin and O'Connor. Has any councillor got a declaration of interest for today's meeting? Nope. Now, Have Your Say. We have 5 people registered for Have Your Say. Please come up to the podium as you're called. There's a button on the right-hand side to press to speak. When the microphone's red like this one, then you can speak and be heard. You will have a timer that'll come up on the screen, and you have 5 minutes to speak. So after 5 minutes, I will ask you to stop. So the first speaker is Ms. Kathy Clare. Kathy is speaking against motion 8.5, reduction of CEO delegation. Kathy.
Which button do I press now? Sorry. I'm right. I don't touch it. Good afternoon, councillors. I feel honoured and humbled to speak here today. I stand here not just as an individual, but as a representative from the Armadale Crime Prevention and Neighbourhood Watch community group against motion 8.5. This motion, as it entails, will have a monumental effect on the 25 items listed to be completed, including tenders already approved and processed for the works projects, by upending the tender process altogether. It will also significantly affect those where funding was given, as the money is released in stages as the work progresses, as it sets out in the completion timeframe. To move back any timeframe puts funding at risk. One of those of huge interest to the Armadale Crime Prevention Group and the community is the CCTV and lighting mentioned in box 2, for which we advocated for and supported the council application and put in with a huge team effort dedicated to ensure we receive the money and the bike track be included for that project. Representatives from the UNE, a local crime prevention officer, Senior Constable Chris Jordan and Councillor O'Brien were also part of this process. I am extremely bewildered, disappointed and angry as to why councillors with this motion would jeopardise works and funding for pettiness and politics. The safety and security of this community is paramount, with the bike track predominantly going through the west of town to link the UNE and the community together. We see what occurs along the bike track regularly. The community has even labelled it a no-go zone. We see robberies, sexual assaults, rapes, vehicle torchings, and last year quite a number of deliberately lit fires. Of the 81 deliberately lit fires, 70 of them occurred in this area. Out of the 18 vehicle torchings, all but 4 occurred in this area. A recent poll on our group indicates that 300 plus people want this project to go ahead, and I believe that it is more votes than some councillors received seated here before me. This alone speaks volumes. Safety and security are paramount. We want the lighting and the CCTV. The funding was given in March 2019. We want the work completed. We are a loud voice and we will make sure it gets done. I stand here today asking the councillors to stop playing politics with the community and our projects. We need the councillors to work for us and not make decisions that will negatively impact further on our community by wiping out these projects and its funding. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy. I'd like to ask David Bounty to come forward, please. And David is speaking for item 10.1, the New England Rail Trail business case and future management responsibility.
Good. Councillors, thanks for the opportunity to speak here today and the Armadale public. Firstly, I'm here in the capacity as a local businessman. Secondly, an enthusiastic local father, an Armadale, and a distant third being my involvement in cycling. I've watched with interest the ongoing social media campaigns, the press releases, and listened to the dialogue both for and against the proposed rail trail. From a business perspective and a concerned local father, I fail to see why the rail trail would not go ahead. Our own business is down some 70-80% since 2018 due to the drought and will continue to be for at least another 12 months, even if we get continual rain. I'm not proud to say, but yes, we've had to shed staff. Armadale, Glyra, Glen Innes, with what these communities have been through over the last 18 months, drought and then bushfires, need diversification. What the last 18 months has shown us is how vulnerable we are as based on our present economic viability. Here is a tourism opportunity that needs to be approved sooner rather than later. In 2016, with 11 other friends, I travelled to Rotorua in New Zealand to ride the mountain bike tracks. Rotorua is a classic example of what can be achieved with forward thinking. We travelled from Sydney to Rotorua on a Qantas flight. There were approximately 60 mountain bikers on board from all over Australia. The terminal at Rotorua Airport had bike stands to assemble the bikes upon landing. The buses that take you to your accommodation have dedicated bike trailers. Everything is set up to encourage the biking tourism market. It's a huge successful tourism industry for New Zealand. Who would have thought? I presently sit on the board of Tour de Rocks, an Armadale-based charity set up to raise funds for cancer prevention and cure. This is our 9th year of riding mountain bikes from Armadale Southwest Rocks. So far, we've raised in excess of $2.1 million. This all started from a small group of people having a vision to carry through with it. Last year, we had 500 people come along. Of these 500 persons, over 50% were outside the Armadale, Uralla communities. This year, it looks like we'll have well in excess of 500. These 500 people actually pay a minimum of $450 to ride this event, unlike a rail trail. Of these people from outside Armadale region, they have to book accommodation in Armadale. They must travel to get to the event. Over the 9 years, we've had participants from all over the world. This year, we have a family travelling from Hong Kong. More expense to do what? To ride a push bike. Who would have thought? To run an event like Tour de Rocks takes some 6 months to get all the approvals in place from Police, Roads and Maritime, Ambulance, Armadale Council, Kempsey Shire Council, Fire Services, New South Wales. Having a dedicated rail trail would make this approval process a lot easier and less time consuming for a large group of people. Wouldn't it be great to think that Tour de Rocks could run a charity event that could start and finish in Armadale? So why do I tell you this? Well, as I said before, I've watched with interest the debate for and against. A lot of negativity gets presented on social media. Some comments are, no one will use the rail trail. It's only a privileged few that will use the rail trail. It's an absolute minority that will use the rail trail. Don't rip it up for a handful of cyclists. What I'm alluding to, as I urge council, is to not underestimate the amount of people that actually do ride push bikes, a silent group that can and will spend money to pursue an active, healthy pastime. Believe me, They go to great lengths and expense to do it. Who would have thought? I'm the first to admit that a lot of people don't like push bike riders. I've seen it firsthand on countless occasions. I can't help but think that sometimes people's judgment on the trail is clouded by the preconceived prejudice against the cycling community. It is well documented that Stay Fit and Healthy takes a huge financial burden off existing infrastructure, and investment in this rail trail has far more positive outcomes than just, say, tourism. These outcomes can be hard to measure, but a fact. Talking about facts, the rail service north of Armadale was discontinued over 30 years ago and is not coming back. There is no funds available to reopen a great expensive rail service to the north, not to mention that it could go as far as Tenterfield. There is no viable business case to reopen the rail trail north of Armadale. There is an alternative option available for passengers to get from Armadale to Tenterfield and vice versa. The bus service is available and leaving at $2 fares. The buses are on average 20% full capacity. There are funds available through the state government for tourism projects like rail trails. There is a business case to open this trail up for cyclists. In fact, Armadale, Guyra and Glen Esk cannot afford to sit on its hand and not move forward with a project like this for the sake of our communities and our younger people that are leaving in droves due to poor job prospects. As far as being a local businessman, if I had a disused asset sitting idle and costing money to maintain and a third party came along saying they had the funds to upgrade this asset and I could also reap the benefits from this upgraded asset, I would feel of me to be remiss not to accept this offer with open arms. These kind of offers don't last forever. Again, I've read with interest social media regarding the division between councillors. Apparently some feel that councillors can't and won't do council. So here this afternoon I asked the council to become a cohesive group and above all a can-do council and look to the future for the sake of the greater Armadale area. There is one thing in life that is certain besides death and taxes, and that is change. The council needs to embrace change and the Armadale region will be left behind. Is that it?
Yes. I'd like to invite Sam Doyle to come to the podium, please. And Sam is again talking for the 10.1.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon, fellow councillors and also council staff. I come here this afternoon in my capacity as an engaged young citizen and a proud member of the Armadale community since 1995, so around 24 years. And I come here, as it stated, to speak for the case for the rail trail business plan being able to move forward. And I do so for a number of reasons, and it's primarily on the basis that I see great potential and opportunity for the Armadale region to invest in something which is going to give a large benefit to the community long into our future. From a young person's perspective, Armadale has a lot to bring in a variety of ways, and I understand that this council is doing a lot of work in a variety of ways to promote young people coming to the region and stay in the region just beyond school and possibly even university. Similarly, the university has a strong history of bike riding and mountain bike trails and also road bike trails, and promoting the opportunity for other stakeholders in the area to utilise a service such as a rail trail, I believe would give great benefit to not only the council itself but the community moving forward, and allowing people to have the opportunity to enjoy the region and the tourism perspective from what it has to offer. I certainly acknowledge that this issue of the rail trail has been a hot topic of debate. It has been emotional and there are certainly many arguments for and against. We've got to acknowledge both sides of the argument. That is one thing which any prudent individual, when you're considering such a decision, must do. However, in my opinion, as a young citizen, if I was to look at the future of where this place can go, I would happily say that having a rail trail giving the opportunity for someone to explore the outdoors in such a way in a safe environment on a road that's not subject to any cars or other traffic apart from other push bikes coming through, that would certainly encourage me to ride from Armadale further up the road to Guyra or even more again, more than it would be riding along a public road from Armadale up the New England Highway. Because the New England Highway, let's face it, is full of road cars and also trucks and other things that need to move up that way. Similarly, I can certainly see the benefit from a tourism perspective. I know that the business case and the original study has put a number of figures there, and I won't comment on those specifically. But speaking broadly, I can easily see the benefit of having a rail trail coming through and the opportunities that it would create for not only tourism, but also young entrepreneurs looking to start their own business, to contribute towards this region. I mean, when you look at it, this region is in a crossroads at this point in time. We've been going through the worst drought on record that we've ever seen. I've been a part of that in my capacity as a Rotarian and helping the community to try to get through these trying times. And we've worked in a variety of ways. But looking at some infrastructure that we can put in to allow businesses to develop along the corridor between Armadale and Glen Innes, I see would be a huge benefit to this community, not just in the short term with expenditure in terms of constructing the rail trail, but also the long-term benefit for any tourism and any other businesses that might come forward. I mean, if we're looking at businesses saying they're struggling, giving the forum that doesn't rely on drought, it relies solely on a piece of infrastructure, which is a road, up to another few towns through Guyra, through Bendemeer, and then up to Glen Innes, it would benefit through all those communities up the New England region, having all that to go. And I think that's something that we should probably consider looking at the future of this area. And a lot of people criticise Armadale Regional Council, as well as any local government, and I feel for the councillors in the sense that they're highly scrutinised and criticised for every decision they make. But I would implore the councillors to consider, and also the council staff, to consider the benefits of doing such a thing as incorporating a rail trail into our future and history and making it something that we can be proud of moving forward. Because we have a proud, rich history as a region prior to what we've got to this point in time. No doubt about it. But we look at what we can be doing moving forward, and the idea of a rail trail, I believe, would give the council something to hang its hat on as something which they've done. Because if you're creating new businesses, if you're giving the opportunity for people to come here for tourism reasons, to be able to spend money not just in Armadale, but in Guyra, possibly in Ben Lomond, and certainly up in Glen Innes along the corridor, there'd be many, many benefits. Similarly, it would also be seen as council working with another council up in Glen Innes, Seven Shire Council, to implement something which would benefit the broader region generally. In my mind, it's an absolute no-brainer, and certainly, again, I acknowledge the history of the Great Northern Railway and how it has been, and I certainly acknowledge the great things that it did. My grandfather, as a trucking business, as a trucker up in Glen Innes, relied on the railway between Armadale and Glen Innes for many years. But my personal view is that that rail time has finished. There's a new opportunity for the council to consider moving forward, and I believe that we should unite behind this decision in a positive way so that we as an area can hang a hat on something which will actually make a positive contribution to the future. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sam. Now I'd like to ask Pam Yeoman to come forward, please. Now, Pam's speaking against item 10.1.
Still on.
Pam, you might just want to pull that down a little bit, please.
Okay.
Yep, done.
Sorry. Just go on. Mayor Murray and councillors, please bear with me. I don't do public speaking very well, and having learnt at 2 p.m. that I was to, I have been rushing around to organise staff and throw a few notes together. 6 or 7 years ago, I'm not sure how long, I was approached at our place of business, and while trying to keep one eye on that and one ear on the petition spiel, I thought I signed for a bike trail, not a bike trail on the railway. My brother David and Rob Lenihan offered to push a track along the side of the railway with their machinery. This would cost a lot less than having the railway ripped up, widened, and some areas having to have safety rails. We have just come through a horrific drought. Well, I hope it's over. And in my mind, I can't justify spending money on either bike trail or rail bike trail when the first time in 35 years of business, we've had people breaking down and depressed at losing their gardens. Many older people will never see the trees like they had grow to full heights in their lifetime. If there is money around, put it into improving the Guyra and Malpas Dam so that the Guyra and Armadale residents have a better water supply. If the money has to be spent on a bike trail, then I suggest running a track around the top of the lagoon where walkers of all ages, runners, bike riders and many visitors camping at the Mother of Ducks Lagoon can all enjoy. I ask for my signature and our business name to be taken off the petition, and this petition be declared null and void, and introduce a new petition with more transparency on costs, location and who is to pay. Maybe it would be better if you could sign the petition at the council offices. I'm also saddened that this has divided our community, and I thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today.
Thanks, Pam. I'd like to invite Rob Lenihan to come forward, please, to the podium. Rob, just press the button there on the... Yep.
Thank you, Mayor Murray. Afternoon, councillors, administration. I'm here to represent the opposition to today's motion, which is to adopt the business case study from Radani. The New England Rail Trail proposal to close the Great Northern Corridor and construct a rail trail has been hanging around for some 6 years now. In that same time, Save the Great Northern Rail Group and other groups against the proposal have grown and gained huge support throughout the whole New England and the entire state. New England Rail Trail have gone nowhere, except for attracting in-principle support from this council here, ARC, and Glen Innes Shire Council. In both cases, with no consultation with the ratepayer or residents. The New England Rail Trail Group is a small minority of dubious credibility. The majority of communities within ARC and Glen Innes Shire Council and elsewhere are totally opposed to the closure of the corridor and believe that it should be used for trains, for which it was built for. The establishment of a freight and passenger rail network in the north of the state, including the reuse of the Great Northern Line north of Armadale, would create far more wealth and vitality for this area than a rail trail. In fact, it would benefit the whole nation. Our highways are becoming more congested with long-haul heavy freight all the time. Trains are quicker, quieter, safer and environmentally friendly. Closure of the corridor should be avoided at all cost. Legislation from both state and federal government is required to close the line, involving the change of land tenure. Once this is done, we will never see another train on this potentially prosperous and vital link between Sydney and Brisbane and beyond. I draw councillors' attention to the attachment 5 in item 10 today, being supposed evidence of community support. This document contains names of businesses and individuals who NERT claim are in support of the rail trail. This is false. While there may be some listed who are in support of a bike track, I can assure you that most don't. I've been informed only in the last 2 to 3 days by several of these business owners that NERT have falsely used their names without permission. This surely creates some sort of legal issues. I would also like to bring to the council's attention, it appears there to be discrepancies in the funding of the Radani business case study. Who paid for what? ARC did commit to not providing any further finance to the rail trail in October 2018. I hope that is still the case. I appeal today for council not to adopt the recommendations to close the Great Northern Corridor north of Armadale in part or wholly for the construction of a rail trail. And please consider the long-term future of our communities within this region. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Okay, councillors, moving on to item 6, confirmation of minutes for the ordinary council meeting from December the 11th, the closed session December the 11th, and the extraordinary meeting 31st of January. Could I have a move and a second? Councillor Gray, Councillor Widders. Are there any corrections? Okay, I'll put that. Those in favour? Carried. There's no mayoral minute. So moving on to section 8 of Councillor Martin.
Mr Mayor, would I be able to move a procedural motion? I just wanted to move a procedural motion that all items within section 8 notice of motion and Section 18, question on notice, be moved to after the confidential matters of Section 18. Due to the large number of notices of motion and the considerable time it will take to deal with them, I consider it would be beneficial to our community who are waiting to hear it on other issues if we dealt with the council business first.
You did say after 19, I presume, is it? You said 18. After 9. Do I have a second for that? Councillor Gray, the procedural motion. So those in favour, hands up please. Carried. Those against? 4. So, carried. Moving on to Councillor Robinson.
Sorry.
Moving on to item 9. There is no item, so moving straight on to item 10. So 10.1, the New England Rail Trail business case and future management. So can I have a mover, please,
I'd like to
Councillor
move
Bailey?
a procedural motion, Mr Mayor, in relation to this one. My procedural motion is that we move we deal with the most recent report, which is 10.2, before we deal with 10.1.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Gretley. Okay, procedural. Those in favour? 4, 5, 6. Those against? The procedural motion is carried. So 10.2.
Excuse me, Mr Mayor, in relation to this, I'd also like to move an amendment.
No, we have to move it first. So do we have a mover and a seconder for it?
Well, I'd like to just foreshadow an amendment to 10.2.
So do we have a mover for 10.2? Councillor Withers, Councillor O'Brien. Councillor Withers, did you want to now make your amendment before they start, Councillor?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to change the word from in B, from minimum to maximum.
Sorry, seconder. Councillor Robertson. So Councillor O'Connor. So do we go? Sorry, just to clarify. Councillor Withers and O'Brien, Councillor O'Brien, do you accept those amendments? Councillor O'Brien? Okay. Then Councillor Withers. Councillor O'Connor?
I don't have a lot to say. No one else would move it, so I put my hand up to move it, so I'll keep my right of reply till later on.
So Councillor O'Brien? No, because you both agreed to the amendment becomes the motion. So you are the seconder, so you've got to speak, turn your mic on, please. Councillor O'Brien, you got...
I'm a bit concerned about that we're going ahead or thinking about a project where we don't have the full report in front of us, that it's pretty well a draft report with only where the report is cited, but not that we don't. The community hasn't had a chance to actually read it or look at it, nor have we. So it's a fairly big decision to be made based on fragments of a report. So I'm not inclined to support the development at this stage until there is much greater community consultation on the whole issue. Yes, so I'm not inclined.
O'Brien, you seconded the motion, which is normally in support of the motion.
Oh, sorry, I thought I was supporting the amendment.
But the amendment's become the motion, so
Okay.
you should be speaking for the motion.
Okay, I'll withdraw that. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I withdraw my support.
Okay. Councillor Gray, you will second it. So Councillor Gray. Councillor O'Brien, you turn your mic off, please.
Yep. This motion and to 10.1 as well, I see them as hand in hand. It's time to move forward with doing something positive for this region, and to me, being able to support further development for a business case, it's not necessarily committing 100% to it, but it is about investigating further into what can be done around a rail trail, but also what funding, etc., whether it's state or federal, and that's going to be crucial to making this happen. And so that's why I'm in support of this motion.
Okay, speaker against the motion? So Councillor O'Connor?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I can't support either of these motions. There's a huge problem before us, and I do appreciate the speeches of all the speakers today, and look, I do take them seriously, but the difficulty we've got here is the process. What we have is a fragment of a report from Regional Development Australia Northern Inland, which I'll call Radani. Radani's now become...
So Councillor O'Connor, just to clarify, you moved an amendment to a motion, which is normally that you agree with the motion, so...
No, not necessarily.
I find it very strange that you are now speaking against the motion.
I do speak against the motion, Mr Mayor. The concerns that I have about this are that the community has been completely excluded from any form of proper consultation in relation to this. We're now talking about throwing another $25,000. I moved that amendment in the off chance that it is passed, at least there's a ceiling on that amount, and that should be evident on the face of the documents there. Look, the Radani report that's been provided has not been made public. It's only been provided to us in a piecemeal fashion. It is watermarked on every page draft. Now, how could this council reasonably be asked to vote any money, 1 cent even, on the basis of recommendations from a draft report? It's not a proper report. It has no more status in its current form as draft than a piece of litter really picked up. I don't want to be rude, but I mean, it just has no formal or official status at all, as it's only in draft form and it's incomplete. Secondly, this report has not been released to the community. We're told that it is the product of a public crowdfunding process by a very small and vested interest group called the New England Rail Trail Group, led by a person who is well known to have a vested interest in having a bicycle shop in Guyra. So the process that we're plunging ourselves into here is so questionable that there's just no way that I could support this at this stage, let alone item 10.1, which has even more draconian, heinous provisions. Look, all I want to say is that last year was a terrible year, and it did raise a massive issue for every level of government in New South Wales, which is about carbon emissions, climate change emergency. The New South Wales government has now committed itself to a carbon neutral economy, carbon emissions neutral economy by 2050. This council is now committed itself to a carbon neutral region by 2030 with the Project 2030, Project 2030 project with UNE. On both these counts, we've now got to look with a completely fresh eyes at the preservation of this rail trail. It's going to be needed, and the facts are that, just for an example, the figures are that rail transport, either passenger or freight, is so much more efficient and so much less carbon emitting than road transport. The days of road transport or relying solely on road transport in this region must be numbered. What I'm trying to say at this point is, yes, I agree that we need, if there was serious contemplation of this, there needs to be a much, well, the very first thing we need to do is actually ask the community if they want it. I actually hosted a rail trail breakfast many years ago, and one of the people in this room was, explaining what a wonderful thing a rail trail would be. And at the time I thought, oh, that'd be interesting, that'd be good. I was a sort of vague supporter at the time, but when I actually came to think of the implications and when it became clear that a condition of this particular proposal is the alienation and the closure of the Great Northern Rail Corridor, you'll see here, this actually takes the New England region out of the equation, out of the major rail transport network forever, because the land will be undedicated, unprotected according to the current plan. It's just not a thinkable thing, really, or at least it needs an awful lot more consultation with the community. I mean, the state government, for whom we would be reliant for the major grant funds of this, has now got an enormous mop-up problem from both the drought and the bushfires. I really have to commend Mrs. Yeoman's comment that if we're going to spend money right now, and if the state government's going to spend money, it's going to have to be on water security.
Councillor O'Connor, time. So, a speaker for the motion, Councillor Bailey. Councillor O'Connor, you turn your mic off, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I feel a case of deja vu after December. And I think probably the important things to remember is the line hasn't been used for 30 years. To suddenly believe that some government's going to walk along with a bucket of money and reopen a rail line is laughable. There's no passengers that basically use the service. There's no freight. Costers have indicated they wouldn't use the service. There's no availability for stock because New South Wales Rail doesn't have any rolling stock available to move cattle or sheep. So there's no availability there. The other thing that's been talked about is bauxite. Bauxite is a low value mineral and it wouldn't be worthwhile. And also one of the proponents has been told that he would also have to update the viaduct to get it to Tamworth, which is I think about 3 kilometres long. It's a wooden viaduct. There's just not the business case there. We can sit here for another 30 years and let it deteriorate and the bridges can all fall apart. And we can sit here and pontificate and hope that some future politician, Labor, Liberal, Green, Califumpian, will come along and say, we'll give you a rail trail. We'll give you a railway line to the north. Well, let me tell you, I don't think that's going to happen. And if it does happen, don't forget the federal government has powers. If they want to put a rail line back in here, they won't care that there's a rail trail there. They've just done it with the inland rail route. They resumed lands. They've done all sorts of things to put a rail line in. So there's no need to believe that once it becomes a rail trail that at some future stage it couldn't be returned to rail. But it provides an opportunity at Black Mountain, at Ben Lomond, at Glencoe, at Glen Innes, in Armadale, to build opportunities in business. And I think that's what we've got to be about. It's a new opportunity, it's an exciting new enterprise. It was funded, from memory, the people that funded the crowd case was over 100. And I can't quite agree with Councillor O'Connor because what it really means is that anybody who has a potentially vested interest shouldn't fund anything. So I actually think David Mills has done a great job in promoting something. And I haven't got a problem with the fact that he tries to get a living out of a bike business. And he's to be congratulated for putting his money where his mouth is. And I think they're the sorts of things that need to happen. It will bring new people here. Indeed, my brother, who passed away, was killed because he couldn't cycle on a bicycle way. He was on a highway because there wasn't enough bicycle way available, and he was killed by being hit by a car. That's the sort of thing happens if we don't provide provisions for our community. This is a great project, and I'm convinced that in 6 months' time, in 2 or 3 years' time when the trail is up and running, people will say, why did it take them so long to make it happen? It's been a great thing for the Glen Innes to Armadale community. Thank you.
A speaker against the motion?
Sorry, excuse me, Mr. Mayor. Can I just clarify whether the speakers are speaking to 10.1 or 10.2? Because it sounds like it's 10.1 they're speaking to.
I too agree with that. It's I was wondering whether we should actually lump 10.1 and 10.2 together, but
Can I move a procedural motion to
motion.
do that in globo, those two in globo?
Yeah, you can.
Do it.
Seconder? Come on. Those in favour of 10.1 and 10.2 being together, so hands up please. Those against? 2. Carried. Do you get that? Okay. Speaker...
Well, that being the case, Mr Mayor, I'd like to foreshadow or present an amendment to 10.1, which would, can I proceed? Which would be that, I can't see it, hang on, that item C for 10.1 be deleted. It's way too early to think about making representations to close the corridor. Way too early.
Do we have a seconder? So Councillor Robertson, Councillor, so they go back to 10.1 and 10.2, which are agreed. Councillor Withers and Councillor Gray, you happy with that amendment? Delete
Sorry,
C.
Do we delete C, which talks about making
Okay.
application?
No, Councillor O'Connor, you want to speak? You've got a mover and a seconder, so on the amendment?
Oh yes, look, I just wanted to say that I think for the reasons I've already spoken to in response to 10.2, this is, we are so, if you look at the reservations that have been recently expressed in the resolutions that come from the most recent report on this from our staff, which is found in 10.2, you'll see that we have an enormous amount of work to do before we run to the state government asking them to close the rail corridor. I think we're going to look like turkeys, to be honest, when we haven't really got any demonstration, in fact, of community support for this, and in fact, the reverse. The community, all the polls and social media, etc., are showing a very, very strong tide turning against the closure of the rail corridor. I have tried to speak with Mr Mills about the idea of a side-by-side facility, which I would support. He's been resistant to any suggestion of that, and I think that's been the experience of most people who've tried to find a compromise between, you know, preserving the rail corridor for future generations and even for our own soon to be executed rail tourism. And that's a sleeper that's not being discussed here, but there's a huge potential for rail tourism and rail-based tourism in this community that's not even being considered or included in the debates, but it is there, and there are many, many supporters of it and many, many examples of it in other places. So can we just please take C out, because it has no utility at this stage, because if we pass the most recent 10.2, it's clear we've got an enormous amount of work to do anyway in investigating the feasibility of a bicycle trail. Secondly, it cuts out any hope of compromise with something like a side-by-side live rail, live bicycle track. I mean, I've inspected the site on many occasions, and to my mind and to the mind of people much more expert than me, there's plenty of opportunities for that sort of thing to happen, as it does in Victoria and other places. So if we take that one out, we just take that bitterness out of the debate at this stage. I mean, it can come back later if necessary, but right now it's just creating more and more division in the community. And there are some people who'd be very delighted to see bicycle activities in and around that rail corridor, but they just could never in a million years live with closing the corridor, as item C here suggests we should proceed with now. It's way too early to do that, so I ask my fellow councillors to support deleting that at this stage.
Councillor Robinson.
I'm just wondering if Councillor O'Brien would prefer to second it instead of me, and if she does, I'll let her talk to it.
Councillor Robinson, you were the person I nominated, so you've got the floor.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Sorry, it's already been seconded. So, Councillor Robertson. And Councillor Tyler, you turn your mic off, please.
Oh, I'm not a legal expert on the rail trail, but I mean, I do think this is an option that should be investigated, and if we put it up now, then we won't be able to investigate it. Matthew Churnies seemed to think that it would be a very good and very logical thing to do, and really, when there are options that we can explore, we should not just dismiss them out of hand. I think that this is something that seems like a very good option and something that we should be investigating as part of the whole process. Because if we do investigate it, we don't cut off options, we can have a much better outcome in the long run. And I think that's what we should all be aiming for.
A speaker for the amendment, Councillor Tyler.
Mr Mayor, I speak in support of both 10.1 and 10.2. The battle lines on this issue have been drawn for quite
Councillor Tyler, can you just bring your mic down a bit,
sure.
please? Thanks.
The battle lines on this matter have been drawn for quite some long time.
Councillor, he's talking against the
amendment in favour of the composite motion of 1 and 2. So I'll start again. As I said, the battle lines have long been drawn. Those for and those against have discussed this out in the community for a long time. It's not fair to say that there hasn't been consultation. There's been a lot of discussion. When I was administrator in 2016, I endorsed the rail trail. It's been going for nearly 4 years. The economic and social imperatives, which are so well put to us today, especially by the businessmen, make it compelling, I believe, for us to stay the course, to take the next step, which is to spend a maximum of $25,000 to flesh out the business plan. We've been accused, and I think with some justification at times, of being a do-nothing council. Here's a chance for us to stand up and say, yep, we're going to get on with this and we're going to give it our very best shot. The community deserves that, the region deserves that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tyler. The speaker against... for the amendment, Councillor O'Brien. Then the amendment is okay. If there's
are we speaking for the amendment, or are we speaking for the whole thing?
You're speaking on the amendment, which is to remove C.
I'm against.
I'm after someone that speaks for the amendment. Councillor O'Brien.
I will speak against the amendment then.
Councillor O'Brien. Councillor Tyler spoke against it. You see. So you're speaking. So you're. So you're speaking for it. Yes. Councillor Gertley.
When we talk about tourism potential, that is a really important part of all this, the tourism potential, which is why it's difficult to accept the idea that we cut out some kinds of tourism and accept other kinds of tourist potential. I've been working with a group who have put together a rather in-depth and persuasive concept for a heritage train from Armadale to Guyra. And it had some interest, as it's been put to several cross-party MPs, politicians, who thought it had a great deal of potential and interest. So those kind of things could be lost if we get rid of the corridor. The idea that that bikes can only go along that track, I have trouble understanding. There are many, many ways you can have bike trails, and even alongside the track is another possibility. But to think that there may be potential in heritage train or other kind of tourist potential that actually is a lot bigger than, would have a lot of greater demographic attracted to it than just bike riders, means that those kind of things are thrown aside. I could see great potential for heritage rail there, and I think that would be a huge tourist attraction. So I think closing down the corridor would diminish and, well, would absolutely cut out all those other possibilities, and therefore I would think it would be a huge tragedy to close the corridor.
So, councillors, that would be someone speaking against the amendment?
Yep.
Councillor Bailey?
No,
So, Councillor Gillespie, sorry.
Look, we just got to move on, mate. We've come to agreement that it's up to $25,000 to go into. They're not over it. Look, we've got more chance of bumping our bum on the moon than trains coming back here, really. It's not going to happen.
So, Councillor Gillespie, remind ourselves that we're talking about the amendment, which is removing C.
This is removing C. I don't want C removed. I want it to stay exactly the same. We have to get on with the job. We've got to, and as far as closing it, if the bloody government at the time want to open it up again, they'll open it up. There's no doubt about that. Look, we've got to move on, get this rail trail thing going, and I don't agree to remove C. I think we should leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker for the amendment. So, Councillor Connor, you're right to reply. That's what I said. Sorry. Oh, geez. Councillor Connor, you're right to reply. Sorry, Councillor Tiley.
Yeah, I'm sure he's upset too. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Look, I stand by what I've said earlier. I think it's we're going to look a bit silly when we start talking, when the conversations around our long-term future and our long-term future require this area to have a corridor that will connect us with Brisbane, with electrified rail in Queensland, right up to Cairns. I mean, we are just pulling a barrel over our heads by even contemplating shutting down this corridor. I don't mind if we have development of the corridor. I know there is a very clear case for heritage rail. It's very popular and it's being done in many places. Lachlan Valley, we've even have it up here, and there's a huge potential for that. But we can't get the conversation going in this council, but I can assure you it's going on in other places. I just want us to, if we're going to progress down this rail trail path, and I see why people, and I'm sympathetic to why people think it's going to make an enormous difference, but if we are going to pursue it, let's go steady and not try and close the corridor, because I can assure you that that aspect of the council's decision making, if this happens, is going to create enormous division in our community. And it's a very, very serious matter. And any suggestion that once that corridor is closed under the Transport Administration Act, that it can be reopened, is frankly false and misleading. It can't be. Once it's lost and gone forever. And that is the legal consequence of C. I mean, I know C only says that Council will support it. I'll never support that because I think that a rail corridor, our founding fathers knew what they were doing when they built a railway line that sits on a geologically stable area above flooding plains, above flooding coastlines. They knew what they were doing. This is a huge national asset, and for us to think that we should replace that, destroy that for the sake of a cycle path, to me it's unthinkable destruction. So that's why I'm asking for this to be removed from our discussions today.
Councillor Connor, your mic. Okay, put the amendment that item C, part C on 10.1 is removed. Those in favour? Those against? The motion's lost. So now I think there's been enough discussion on 10.1 and 10.2, so I'll put the combined.
I would like to speak. I have a right to speak according to our code of meeting practice. Unless you...
So, Councillor, okay, we can have... we haven't had the speaker speaking for... the mover, Councillor Witt, is speaking for the motion. So if we're going to do it...
I was actually waiting on my right of reply. Are we up to there now? Yep.
Sorry, yes.
All right.
So someone speaking against, Councillor Robinson.
Just a quick question. Are we still, after the amendment, are we still in the for and against, since we've put them together in Globo, are we still in the for and against of the original motion before I have my right of reply?
Yes, we are now.
All right.
So Councillor Robinson,
I presume you're speaking against?
Well, that is debatable, but I'm going to say what I have to say anyway. And that is that our code of meeting practices requires us to make decisions based on relevant quality information. And for that, we need to see the full report. We were supposed to get it in December, and when it hadn't been provided by mid-February, I personally asked the CEO for a copy. And all I got was the information last Thursday in our meeting papers, in our business papers, and I really do not think that's enough to make an informed decision on a project which I expect the New South Wales government to have to fund $24 million. And if we don't get that funding, there'll be no chance of this project going ahead. So our best chance of actually encouraging cycling and getting a rail trail or rail trails up might be to consider it as part of a bigger picture of cycle tourism within and between towns. And because of that, because I do not have the required information, my only option is to walk out of the meeting when the vote is taken, because I do not want to vote for it or against it, because I really have to abide. I'm honour bound to abide by our code of meeting practice.
Speaker for the combined motion. Oh, Councillor Withers, you're right to reply.
Alrighty. So lucky I didn't say anything at the start, so I got to listen to everyone else. I moved the motion because no one else had moved it. So I didn't really indicate whether I was for or against it to get the meeting moving along. Someone had to move it, so I moved it. So I will. What concerns me is that those that have spoken for have spoken very passionately about this, but they should have shown that passion by moving the motion to begin with. So the fact that I had to move the motion to get it going forward really concerns me in regards to that. I've got a few issues, and you can go back and watch the videos I always have had in regards to this version of a rail trail. I wasn't happy when we voted on giving $20,000 a few years back in regards to a study or whatever it was, and I think I continued to remind councillors in regards to different financial decisions that we did give money to the rail trail at different meetings. So I've got hodgepodge of different notes here, so I ask for your indulgence as I sort of make my way through them. I'll start with what I originally wrote. Something does not sit right with me in regards to this, and it never has. Don't ask me what it is, but there's just something about this particular version of a bike trail, rail trail that I'm not real happy with. The fact that we have not seen anything in regards to the reopening of the line north for travel or freight trains concerns me deeply. We've had a lot of information about a rail trail, but nothing of the kind, which sort of goes to what Councillor Robertson was saying. It has been, as I said, one-sided information and funding which doesn't allow councillors to make an informed decision on such a major piece of infrastructure. If the value of this proposal is as good as to be believed, then it should hold up under the weight of an alternative proposal. Bike trails, one of the speakers mentioned earlier about the money being spent elsewhere. Why can't the money be spent that is proposed to build it on a more scenic area within the regions? As someone that has driven the road near the line, I almost fell asleep driving because it was boring. There was nothing to look at except paddocks either side. I understand the road to rural one and the different comparisons, but the view, if you're going to ride a bike, you want something to look at, the views and all that sort of stuff. Another argument that's used here is 30 years ago the line was closed because no one was using it. 30 years ago, no one wanted to ride bikes on it either, so no one was using it to ride bikes. So to use that comparison of 30 years ago doesn't really sort of stand up at the moment. The region has grown, the connectivity between communities has grown. We're more open now than what we were back then. So also there's no correspondence on the numbers of people that travel down the coast to use that connective line from Sydney to Brisbane through the communities from Armadale, Gyra, Tenterfield, Glenninnis, all the way along there. So and I'll say this can go out for the rest of the meeting too. It's unfair for or against to use the drought as an emotive issue to try and push an agenda. of anything. Everyone suffered from the drought. To try and use it on one side or the other is unfair, and I implore to speakers and the fellow councillors to leave that out and not try and use that as an emotive issue to get your point across, because it doesn't make anything any better anyway. The other one, I think it was Sam when he spoke earlier, talked about acknowledging both sides. It goes back to my point of how can we acknowledge both sides if we don't have the information from both sides? Because I'm never against, never been against an actual bike trail within the region. It's just we're against this actual proposal. I think it's an all eggs in one basket situation. But again, as the mover of the motion, I understand your point you made earlier to Councillor O'Connor, but the fact that no one would put their hand up really concerns me that that was the case. Thank you.
Councillors, I'll ask for a division on this. So those in favour of the motion, please raise your hand. So can you get the count? The two of them, as they use hands, yes. Those against? No problem. And yes, through. Motion carried. Can someone just let... Oh, yes. Moving on to item 10.3. Rescission of approval of Stage 1 budget for the office accommodation in the Armadale Regional Council War Memorial. Can I have a mover, Councillor Gray?
I've got a procedural motion for this one. I think we haven't got nearly enough information. I move that we defer this matter to the March meeting.
A seconder? Those in favour of moving till March? Dorothy, Councillor Robinson. So it's moved to March. Item 10.4. Second quarter budget review. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Gray, Councillor Widders, Councillor Gray. Oh, Councillor Robinson, you turn your mic off, please. Councillor Gray.
First of all, I'd like to, through you, Mr. Mayor, the Chair, to congratulate the Kelly, the CEO, through to the Finance Manager to congratulate them on a very well-written report. I think it very much highlights that there is some significant adjustments that have needed to be made. And of great concern is the water. There is some critical decisions that councillors will need to be making around that. But I would like to mostly just congratulate on the hard work that's been going into making this happen. And it's not actually an emotive mention of the drought, but it has had significant input into where we are financially.
So, Councillor Widders.
To support what Councillor Gray has said. Thanks.
Any speaker against? Okay, I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? Unanimous. Item 10.5, the Draft Hydrotherapy Centre Working Group Terms of Reference. Can I have a move? Councillor Robinson? Oh.
I'd like to move an alternative motion, which I will bring to the staff now.
So we've got to bring the first motion on.
I'll move the motion for a point of debate.
A seconder? Of the paperwork that's in front of us. A seconder? If not, Councillor O'Brien. Yes. Now you've got an amendment, is it, Councillor Robinson?
Correct. It will have to be an amendment if, though I thought the procedure was if you could actually put it, if the first motion is accepted and the second, then that should be the one. So I'd like to check that according to the Code of Meeting Practice.
Before I ask for a second of that, I might just ask the CEO to provide guidance on this matter.
Councillor, I've got concerns in relation to your proposed amended motion, that the unlawfulness of the motion to allow for the committee to make such a decision without the decision being made by council. And I would hesitate or warn councillors that that motion as it stands is perhaps unlawful.
Well, I move in the circumstances where there's great uncertainty about the lawfulness or not of the proposed alternative motion. Maybe we just have to defer this and get more robust advice. I don't want to defer it, but I certainly
Councillors,
don't.
we've had the advice from our governance officer. Do you wish to withdraw that, Councillor Robinson?
Well, I think we should try and take advice during this meeting and postpone this till the end of the meeting, because I think it's a very important issue that we discuss it. Move a procedural motion that all recommendations and items relating to terms of reference are left till the end, and we actually have a break and seek the advice of the office, seek advice on this.
Sorry, can you say again, you want to defer this until, your procedural motion to defer this until the end of the meeting?
Until the end of the meeting, yes.
And
in the hope of receiving proper legal advice on this, because I've no reason to believe. I consulted the Office of Local Government and they said it was perfectly lawful. So we have the Office of Local Government saying one thing and other people saying another thing. And
so, do you have a second? This is going to be a procedural motion that we move it to the end of the meeting. So you've got someone move, Councillor Robinson. Is there a seconder? Councillor O'Connor. So I'll put that to the vote that this item goes to the end. Those in favour of moving to the end? Those against? The procedural motion is lost.
could we please have a division?
Yes, we can have a division. Those in favour of the procedural motion? To move it to the end. 4, 5. Oh, okay, procedure. So hands up, please. There's Councillor Robinson. Oh, Councillor Bailey. Councillor Bailey, Councillor Robinson. Widders. O'Brien. And those against? Harley. And Martin, that's 5. Thank you. I've got the casting vote. Since Councillor Murat's not here, we're not moving it to the end. We'll leave it where it is.
Could Can I move talk to the original motion, please?
Councillors, since there was councillors that did not take on the advice of our senior staff here, the CEO has informed me she may have no option but to withdraw staff from this meeting. So,
sorry, Mr. Mayor, I don't quite understand.
There was Councillor Robinson did not, and Councillor O'Connor, by their moving and voting, seconding, do not believe the counsel that was provided for them, and therefore, Councillor. So to that, the CEO has advised me that any more of this not taking advice of council will be withdrawal of staff. So let's go on to the Councillor O'Connor.
Well, I would like to make a point of order in relation to that statement.
So point of order, what is it?
Point of order is that I think I've been misunderstood. I didn't say that I didn't accept the advice of Mr. Brown. What I said was that there's uncertainty, there's a conflict. At no point did I offer any contradiction or disrespect to Mr. Brown, and I want that to be made very clear.
No, it's kept. Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. So, Councillor Bailey, you want to speak for your motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've now waited 2 months to get the draft terms of reference for the Hydrotherapy Committee up. They mightn't exactly be perfect, but I believe it's something we can work with. And I'm sure with the cooperation of the Mayor and the CEO, if something comes up that isn't covered by the terms of reference, I could appeal to their good nature to allow us to at least have some discussion on it. I think there is an opportunity for us to move forward and look for funding opportunities, look at models of hydrotherapy pools, look at third-party operation options where we wouldn't sell the hydrotherapy pool but may lease it out for 5 years or so to an operator. That's the model that's been used around the state and has worked quite successfully. Inverell and Nambucca both have their pools leased to a group called Community Aquatics. So I think there are options available, and I'm just looking forward to the committee getting down to work and coming back with some recommendations. Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor O'Brien?
I've got nothing to say.
Any speaker against? Okay, I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? Carried. Councillor O'Connor, did you want your vote recorded? Did you get that, Hammy? And also Councillor Robinson. Councillor, moving on to 11.1, which is Puddle Dam raw water transfer system augmentation. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Gray, Councillor Widders. Councillor Gray?
This is a project that's a legacy of past councils, and with probably one of those that was good in hindsight, but unfortunately the co-contribution funding wasn't carried forward in budgets from back then. So I believe that we do need to move ahead with this. I do think it is there for a benefit and as an asset to the region, especially with Armadale as a backup water source. I think that this does need to have some decisions made around the impact that it will have to the water fund, and that council is very conscious of that impact.
Councillor Widders?
Yeah, just add on to that. This is an issue that's come about because of ghost of councils past, and we just need to get it done and move along. Thank you.
A speaker against?
I'd like to move an amendment, if it's possible, to A, which is that you add at the end of the sentence, if no other internal funds are available. That's not B, A.
Councillor Robinson, I've been advised that that'll be contradictory to the motion and a bit vague, so
yeah.
Would you? And Councillor Gray and Widders do not accept? So do you wish to speak against it?
No, I wish to move it as an amendment then.
Through you, CEO, can I get no, but just before it goes on to that, I'll just ask our water.
The intent of the motion is to give you a choice, and that is to go into, it's only giving you two options. One is to go into the water fund, and the rest of the motion gives you the financial impact, which would be to, as you can see on that graph, what that would do to take nearly $6 million out of the water fund and our capacity to have some buffer to do other works. And the alternative offered up in the resolution is to go borrow. So it's an either or. We've made a decision to proceed with the project. This is asking council for the financial methodology, and you've really only got two choices: to go into the water fund, and hence that description of the impact over there, or borrowings. And borrowings has its own impacts, of course.
I might just ask the CEO to provide some guidance as well, and then Councillor Gray.
Thank you, Dr. Mayor. The issue with the amendment is that it is vague and it doesn't clearly identify from where those funds may come. And I think without that identification, it would be very difficult to implement.
Councillor Gray, you had a question? Councillor Tyler. Councillor Gray was first. I just wanted her to, if there's questions.
It was just a question around the water fund reserve, and while I understand the importance of making sure that we have a reserve, particularly when we're looking at the age of the water treatment plant, I'm thinking through the chair and through the CEO, if Mr. McDonald could potentially share with us why it is advantageous to borrow rather than dip into those funds.
Mainly from the perspective of safety, we've got about 28 million. We started this financial year. We're heading for around about 20 million at the end of this financial year. We have the funds in the water reserve, but my advice in consultation with finance is if we took another $6 million out of those reserves, we would run down to a point that I believe doesn't have the safety. If you have a large failure, let's say in the Malpas pipeline, or some pumping mechanisms or pipelines or whatever it might be, that we simply wouldn't have the money to go out and do necessary works. And as to, I think, your point and others have raised, we do have a lot of aged infrastructure. We saw that when we got down to 32%. Pumps, water treatment plants were all struggling. So my concern is that I wouldn't be able to give council the comfort that we could do emergency type works if that situation arose.
Councillor Tyler.
Mr. McDonald has essentially said what I was going to say. We've had a good, healthy reserve in water fund for some time, and I was surprised it's up to 28 million. It was 22 or 23, but we have many other calls on our water funding, as you say, ageing mains. We mustn't ever also forget the fact that at some point, I'm hopeful that we'll increase the height of Malpas Dam, which will require funding. So there's a lot of projects, and it's historically low interest rates at the present time. It makes a lot of sense to borrow in this occasion. I strongly support the motion.
A speaker against the motion?
I have a question, please, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Bailey.
Would it be the CEO and CFO's intention, if we are to borrow, to try and borrow the money through T Corp, which is 1.5% below bank interest rate?
That would be optimal for us, and we will certainly explore that option.
A speaker against the motion? Since there are none,
what I'd like to do is ask Mr. McDonald a question, because what he said was perfectly acceptable, and basically what I was trying to put in my motion. And I'm just wondered if we could revise the wording in any way so that it actually captured what Mr. McDonald actually said, which is that we'll have the choice at the appropriate time to do that. In other words, say just through the possible use of borrowings to the water fund. If that's what he was actually saying.
My recommendation, again with finance, was to request of council, decision makers, representatives, to make that decision to either go into your water fund, your water reserve, or borrowings. We have signed the deed. The CEO signed the deed, and the clock's ticking for us to execute that.
Okay, since no one spoke against, I'll put that to the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Right. It's passed. Now, councillors, items 13.1 to 13.7 all information. Is there anyone want to pull an individual one out? Otherwise, I'll...
Mr Mayor, I'd like to move in relation to 13.4 and 16.2 that those matters be deferred, given that the councillor concerned has sought mediation. I understand you would have received an email today, Mr Mayor, to that effect.
No, I haven't.
About 2:30 this afternoon.
No, I haven't. Sorry, I haven't checked the email, so I'm unaware of that. So you're saying there's
request from the councillor concerned for mediation, and under those circumstances I think that 13.4 and 16.2 should be deferred or withdrawn, whichever you like.
Did you like a procedure motion on that?
Yeah, okay, yes.
Yes, that's the seconder. Councillor Bailey. Those in favour of procedural motion? 2, 6. Those against? The motion's carried. So,
sorry, Mr Mayor, I have some questions regarding 13.7.
Yep. So, any others to pull out? Otherwise, I can have a move and a second.
Mr Mayor, could I ask that we get someone does some verbal presentation on 13.3 with regards to the playground? I'm sure Mr Perakowski's across the issue, but I'd just like some more explanation, some more understanding of what we're doing in the time span.
So, okay, so 13.3 and 13.7 to be treated individually, otherwise put the rest in globo. Councillor Tiley and Councillor Mutton, those in favour? Good. Item 13.3.
I'll move it for procedural points of view, but I would appreciate some input from some of the senior staff. If I can speak...
Just a minute, before we do, you've moved, Bailey, a seconder. Councillor Gletley. Councillor Bailey?
I had numerous people contact me with regards to covering the playgrounds in Armadale because of the sun and because we're so much closer to God, being so high. The opportunity for kids getting burnt and for equipment getting too hot is quite serious. So I moved the resolution in December that we move immediately to try and accelerate the programs to cover some of the playgrounds. And I'm hopeful that we can do that and do it in a timely manner. And if we are running short of funds, I'm happy to try and find some other sources of funds, such as some of the service clubs. So that's the basis on which I moved the motion, but I would like to suggest that someone does give us some more information.
CEO, through you, could we get just an update on the progress?
We can certainly at this meeting, but councillor, would you prefer a one-on-one meeting for more detail elsewhere?
But I think it's an important enough issue that the other councillors would like to know too.
I'm happy to give an update. I think a lot of the detail, though, councillor, was covered in the appendices and the attachments. That was the purpose of putting them in there. I understand the staff are progressing on exactly the terms that was spelled out in both the report and the attachment, primarily looking at the Arboretum as being the first port of call for that particular equipment to go in. I think the staff have done a good job in terms of outlining how the priorities are set out over the next few years. And that'll depend, as was mentioned in the report, on how council moves with its budget going into next operation, into the next year, financial year.
I would like an opportunity, if I could, Mr. Mayor, to have a discussion with Mr. Perakowski about whether some community funding might help to accelerate some of the projects to move forward.
Councillor Bailey, I think all just contact the CEO, make arrangements. So, Councillor Gletley, you want to speak to this?
No, I'm happy with what Councillor Bailey said. Thanks.
Any speaker against? Otherwise, I'll put the vote. Put to the vote. Those in favour? Carried. 13.7. 13.7. Councillor Gray, you wish to move?
Yes.
Yes. A seconder. Councillor Witters. Councillor Gray.
I just have a question through you, Mr. Mayor, to the CEO around an explanation as to the process as to how we got to where we are, simply because of the recommendation within the. I know it's for information, but it's got some serious comments in that, and if we could have a bit of an explanation around the process to date, that would be most welcome.
I'll ask the CEO to get appropriate staff for that, please.
Before the CEO talks, could I ask a question, please? In light of the opinion that came forward to us concerning this and other related matters, concerning occupational health and safety, the code of meeting practice, and the other one, yes, are we free to still ask questions without fear or favour, or are we now in a situation, because of the opinion of this council, that we have to be careful in what we are saying?
Councillor, you're free to ask any question that is appropriate to be asked in this forum.
Okay, so specifically in relation to is there any item that you'd like to speak to, seek clarification on in regards to the recommendations?
No, it's just more the process to which you came to these recommendations.
Okay. I understand that the terms of reference for the Climate Emergency Working Group were rescinded in the December council meeting. From there were some meetings that were organised through the Mayor with relevant members of the committee around drafting and amending the terms of reference, which was then circulated to the committee with the agenda item prior to the ESAC committee that was held in February. Between those terms of reference being circulated. There was a secondary version that was tabled during the meeting, which formed some discussion, and then was submitted through a paper copy post and electronic post the meeting establishment. So we went back to the original ESAC terms of reference to qualify the content within the report, within the recommendation for the terms of reference for the Climate Emergency Working Group. Is that?
Can I ask a question as well? And the terms of reference for the Environmental Sustainability Advisory Committee say that the chairman sets the agenda, the chairperson sets the agenda, and the chairperson sets the meeting schedule or frequency and consultation with all members. And in this case, the chairperson did exactly that. The terms of reference for both the Climate Emergency Working Group and the Air Quality Working Group were circulated by the chairperson well in advance, and so met all the requirements of the terms of reference. The only thing that didn't meet the terms of reference was the fact that, having submitted these well in advance, over a week, over 5 business days before the meeting, and despite the fact that the chairperson is supposed to set the agenda, I understand it, the council staff actually refused to send out the chairperson's agenda. Can that be confirmed? And that is strictly against the terms of reference. That was the reason they had to be sent out by the chairperson instead. But chairperson instead. Council staff wouldn't comply with the terms of reference.
Yeah. The question, are you saying, did staff refuse to send out the agenda?
Yes, I'm saying that exactly.
So,
yeah. Were you involved in it? Was it you who refused? And my understanding, it was somebody more senior to you.
That's enough.
So, Councillor, if there's questions, you ask questions. Otherwise, so Councillor Gray.
First of all, thank you. I just note that the recommendations that you've put forward back up the reasons why of my concerns back in when it came up first as a motion. I'm concerned. I would just like some clarification on that these terms of reference needed to go to the ESAC committee. Is that correct?
Yes, so the terms of reference as per the resolution in December.
Yes, and unfortunately I wasn't able to attend that meeting, but I also noticed that the people present at that meeting, there were people there that are not actual members on that committee.
Yes, there was at least one individual in attendance that was not on that committee.
So can you confirm that that person or people were not involved in the
So, Councillor Gray, are you cross-examining?
No, sorry.
Just what is the question?
I just wanted to confirm that the terms of reference here did not, it wasn't due to any contribution from people.
The recommendation, or the recommendation was determined based on the input for the committee and what the recommendation was based on the membership of
That's
that
excellent.
night. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. And my apologies if it sounded like that. It definitely was not meant to.
So, Councillor Gray, you wish to speak for the motion, though, because you moved it.
I've got nothing further to say. Thanks.
Councillor Witters. Oh, Leah, thank you.
Just like to thank the author of the motion for her time to answer the councillor's questions, but I'm a little bit concerned that these recommendations have come up, to be honest. So it's unfortunate, but they're there, and, well, that's about it.
Speaker against? Councillor Ward?
I'd like to move an amendment. And the amendment is that the terms of reference and expression of interest for the climate emergency and air quality working groups that were approved unanimously by ESAC are endorsed and advertised immediately.
I get a second, I just let the Hayley put that up.
That the terms of reference and expression of interest for the climate emergency and air quality groups that were for the climate emergency and air quality working groups that were approved by ESAC, that were approved unanimously by ESAC, are endorsed and advertised.
Before I asked for a second, I'll just ask our Governor's Office to provide some comment.
Councillor, I believe the issue in relation to recommendation C was that the working groups were formed outside of the terms of reference. If the councillor would like those working groups to be formed appropriately, my understanding is that the terms of reference is what needs to be amended to allow for the formation of those working groups.
So you're saying we have to amend the terms of reference of the ESAC to allow it formation of working groups?
Exactly right, Councillor. You don't. The ESAC doesn't currently have the powers to form working groups as the terms of reference stands.
But council does, and this is now.
And council can do so by should do so by amending the terms of reference for ESAC.
So I need to put an amendment up as well that the terms of reference for ESAC are amended to allow it to form working groups. Yeah, okay.
So, Councillor Robinson, the difficulty is you've already, this is not a notice of motion that you can put forward now. You could, you've had the ESAC group vote on something which they actually had no authority to vote on. So you're going to have to bring this back as a notice of motion. So do I have anyone
Can you explain that? Because the ESAC can vote on it or discuss anything within its terms of reference, and climate emergency and air quality are two things. And setting up a potential working group to be approved by council would seem to be logical.
This is still, you still have to get that changed through the terms of reference of the ESAC. So you, in the future, I'd suggest you have a notice of motion that you want to change the terms of reference of ESAC, and then we'll go forward. So is there a speaker against? Otherwise I'll put it. Those in favour? Those against? The motion carried. And would you like your, Councillor O'Connor, Councillor Robinson would like their vote recorded. Councillors, moving on to item 16.1, the minutes of the Traffic Advisory Committee. Can I have a mover and a second? Councillor Martin, Councillor Tiley, Councillor Martin, Councillor Tiley. I'll put it to vote. Those in favour? Carried. Moving on to item 16.2 has been deferred, so 16.3, which is the minutes of the Regional Growth and Place Activation Peak Advisory Committee. Move in a second, please.
I'm not moving it.
Oh, no, we've done that because, no, it's an information, and we've passed that, haven't we?
Can I have a point of information for the Place Advisory Committee thing? I'm sorry, my...
Mr Mayor, whilst Councillor Robinson's thinking...
No, it's all right.
Yes, Councillor Bailey.
Could I request through to Scott McDonald, and I've spoken to Councillor Murat, that we develop a calendar of meetings so that we can plan for the next 6 months, so that we're not being sprung on meetings in 3 or 4 days' time.
Yep, thank you.
Okay. Could I support that? I would like to support that for all committees.
Councillors, we've basically done all of the items, so up to item 17, there's no matters of urgency.
Well, can I just have a point, just a question in relation to the place and activation, noting the minutes of that. I'm not quite sure how I can note them if they're not in the attachments to the business paper.
Are they not there?
Therefore, I'd like to withdraw my vote on that.
Item 16.3. Well, actually, councillors, we put items all of 13 in Globo, so item 16.3 wasn't. So I will have to ask for a mover and a seconder, so we put it on the books. Councillor Bailey, did you move? I did. Councillor Bailey and seconder, Councillor Gray. All those in favour?
Can I ask you a question, Mr. Mayor? I just don't understand. Are those attachments there or not there? In the the minutes of the Regional Growth Committee. Are they available to us or not? I didn't see them, but it doesn't mean they're not there.
No, we must apologise for that. Thank you.
Well, could I move then that there be an undertaking from somebody that they be supplied on the hub as a matter of arising from this within the next 7 days?
Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. They will.
Okay, can I actually move that we rescind 16.3 because it's impossible to know something we haven't seen?
Councillor Robinson, it's only for noting. It's only an information one.
Can we?
Yeah, we've already passed it. Councillors, we don't...
Well, I said we rescind it.
If you rescind it, then we have to wait till the next meeting. So...
That's better than noting something you haven't seen.
So section 17, there's none.
Well, with respect, Mr. Mayor, point of order. I mean, I just think, to respect Councillor Robinson, I mean, maybe you could call for a seconder, and maybe there won't be one, but to just move on without resolving the proposal for rescission motion that Councillor Robinson has put is a bit incomplete.
Councillor O'Connor, we've already apologised for it. The information will be put on the hub for all councillors to view. And it's just it's an oversight.
Question, just in regards to the code of meeting practice. It seems that like some councillors who don't like a decision are always questioning. Again, is there something? Maybe it's been a year since I've gone through it thoroughly. But is there something in the code of meeting practice that says the mayor's decision is final? No. So, is there or not? Like once he's, I don't know. Excuse me, I appreciate all the answers again, as every time I seem to ask a question in these meetings or in other meetings, I get 1,000 answers. But I am a man, I can only talk or hear one at a time, so trying to all yell at me all the time doesn't really help me, so I'm asking the mayor a question. I don't interrupt and jump down your throats when you ask a question. How about you have a bit of respect and at least let me ask a question?
As far as I know, the council makes the decision. So once the council has voted and I declare that vote is passed, the decision's done. So do we want to have a 5-minute break before we move into closed session? So councillors, can I have someone to move that we have a 10-minute break? Councillor Gray, Councillor Robinson, those in favour? Carried. Councillor Martin and Councillor Gray. All those in favour? Councillors, I'd like to move into confidential section. Could I have a mover and seconder that we, Councillor Gray, Councillor Martin, that carried. Sorry, it was Councillor Gletley and who? O'Connor. Sorry, Gletley and O'Connor. All right. So, councillors, we're moving to item 8.1. So, move and a seconder, please.
I move item 8.1.
Seconder. If there's no seconder, Brian. Sorry, Paddy. We're 8.1. O'Connor, O'Brien. So, Councillor O'Connor.
I think the staff for the response that's been provided. I don't think there's anything more for me to say.
Councillor O'Brien. A speaker against? Councillor Gray.
This motion is yet again another way of councillors just wanting in on everything. It's fault finding, it's micromanaging. I'm just like, you've got to be kidding me. This is ridiculous.
A speaker for? Okay, Councillor O'Connor, you're right to reply. Okay, I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? No, just a minute. There's 5. Casting vote, motion lost. Um, 8.2, complaints register. Mover and seconder, Councillor Robinson.
Bit a second.
Councillor Robinson.
It's been agreed. It's been agreed in the end.
So, Councillor Robinson.
I just want to say that this is a really good and useful initiative that would increase the accountability and transparency, and that's something I hope all councillors support and will greatly benefit all our residents, especially all those who want to make this a much better place to live and work. So I really ask for your support in that. If we don't, our job as councillors is to help and support our residents when they have good ideas and they come to us, and this is one of the best ways I can think of doing it.
Councillor O'Connor.
Concur.
Can I make an amendment, please? That where it's after the list of complaints, in comma, relevant to the council and its decision making.
Yep.
Councillor O'Connor, do you accept that? And Councillor Robinson? So, it's an amendment by Councillor Gray. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Widders. Just before you speak, Councillor Gray, just make sure you get it up now.
purpose for this amendment is to keep it relevant and not be bombarded or inundated with irrelevant information to the decision making of council.
Yeah, I might just get a governess. There's just a query on this.
Councillor, I'm just concerned about who decides the relevance. So perhaps if you indicate as decided by the CEO or otherwise.
No, I was thinking more that it doesn't delve into operational matters where councillors have no right to make decisions on.
Yeah, I understand, Councillor. Again, just concerned about who makes the decision. So
well, I would imagine that would be the CEO.
Yeah, and that might be perhaps how you word the motion.
So as decided, decision making as decided by the CEO.
I'd speak against the amendment.
So, Councillor Gray, you wish to speak for it, or you've... Okay, Councillor Witters.
Yeah, the good word in there is relevant. Seems that we have an issue here on what is relevant in regards to governance and what is relevant in regards to operational. And sometimes you get bogged down in the differences of trying to maybe have a foot in each camp, so to speak. So in regards to complaints around the governance or relevant areas in which the councillors on their side of the fence, so to say, I think it's a good idea. There's no need for us to, if we're not involved, if it's an operational issue that doesn't involve the governance side of it, then we don't really need to hear the complaints. That's what the CEO and the workers are there to deal with. So happy for the complaints to come along if it's relevant to what the governance is about. And this amendment to the motion sits to that. So that's why I support this amendment to the motion.
A speaker against? Councillor Bailey?
I'd speak against it, Mr Mayor, just on the pure value that it's very difficult for an individual to decide relevance. No reflection on the CEO, but I think we're far better off to have a list of the complaints that are made to council, and maybe there could be a second column where the CEO said these were operational matters. But I think by and large we should know about the complaints, because if we're getting, hypothetically, 43 complaints that the person who's out at the recycling centre is rude and disrespectful and nothing's done about it, well, we want to know, because that's part of the image of council, even though it's an operational matter. And I'm quoting an extreme example. So I think we've got to know about the lot.
A speaker for the amendment? Otherwise, I'll put it to the... Yes, you're right, reply.
Thank you to fellow Councillor Bailey for his comments. I think it was contradictory in itself that this is the actual role of the CEO to make these decisions, and council's actually taking that away. So yet again trying to micromanage the CEO.
Okay, I'll put the amendment to the vote. Those people in favour of the amendment? Those people against? The amendment's lost. So, Councillor Robertson?
Well, yeah, I spoke to the motion. I mean, the only thing I wanted to say is that Councillor Gray did not have a right of reply according to the Code of Meeting Practice. And I'd just like that to be noted in future.
So, Councillor O'Connor, anyone wants to speak against it?
I'll speak against the motion now, and just so there's no one that jumps down my throat, which seems to be the case. Now that we're outside of the amendment, I'm now allowed to speak against the motion. You all happy with that? Thanks. Again, I'll just repeat some of my comments earlier. Happy for complaints that are governance areas to come for the councillors to be advised. That just on Councillor Bailey's comment earlier around the hypothetical that he threw up around, well, if we get 43 complaints about the one staff member out of the recycling centre, just for example, shouldn't we as councillors know that we deal with governance, and then that's an operational issue? We should direct them back to the operational, the complainants back to the operational side of the council, and say that's an operational thing. I can pass your concerns on, or you can contact this person in regards to that. That's outside of our jurisdiction as governance. Again, we need to be very careful on whether we're trying to do two jobs at once as councillors, and be very careful around the code of conduct on how we approach these sorts of things. So as I said, if it's a governance complaint in and around the relevance towards it comes to us, that's fine. I'm happy with that. But we need to be very careful when we get complaints about the operational side of the council, whether we take them and what we do with them, or whether we pass it back to the operational side who should be looking after it.
A speaker for the motion? Okay, Councillor Robinson, your right to reply.
Forgo it.
Okay, I'll put that motion to the vote. Those in favour? Six. Those against? Yep. That's 4 people against and 4 people. It's basically division, yes. Did you get that? Item 8.3.
I formally move, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Tiley, Councillor Gray, Councillor Tiley.
Very briefly, firstly, I'm grateful for the management comments and to note the work that's underway to date, and we look forward to having an update at the March meeting, as you suggest in the final paragraph of the management comment. I think it's very timely to proceed as quickly as we can to develop a water security policy. I mean, we may or may not be over the drought, but it's fresh in people's minds, and developing this policy is multifaceted. It's not only about uniformity of water restrictions policy, it's about water parity pricing, it's about total integrated water cycle management, a whole lot of things. So I applaud the staff for the work they've done to date. We look forward to getting an update, and let's try and secure a good policy in the remainder of this term. Thank you.
Councillor Gray.
I agree with Councillor Tiley. It's a timely notice of motion to put up, particularly with the water security fears within the community, and I would like to congratulate through the Mayor to the CEO, the work that's been undertaken with the integrated water cycle management strategy and secure water yield review. I do understand that it is quite a complex review to do, and obviously will need to be done prior to any water security policy in itself being formulated, which more than, well, in my mind, would also include a drought management plan. So we're well on the way to delivering on that. I think it's something that's probably well and truly overdue, considering the amalgamation of the 2 water treatment plants into one region, and it's a very timely and no doubt a lot of work. So thank you for the work to date, and look forward to work that's going to come our way. Thanks. Bye. With that.
A speaker against? Okay, I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? Carried. Item 8.4.
Formally move, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Tiley, Councillor Robinson. Councillor Tiley.
Very briefly, this is solely about supporting our peak Australian local government body, which is preparing its strategic plan right now to take to government for funding for local government in the 2021 financial year. they've identified these as the 5 highest priorities based upon motions that have been to successive conferences over the year. So it's purely about signifying our strong support for our peak body. Thank you.
Councillor Robinson.
Yes, I agree entirely with what Councillor Tiley says. This motion lists the 5 most important issues that prevent local councils from serving the needs of their communities. And the entire country would be better off if these problems were fixed. So I strongly support this motion and hope everybody else will too.
Anyone else speak against the motion? Otherwise, I'll put it. Those in favour? Carried. Item 8.5.
I'd like to move a procedural motion. Me?
Councillor O'Brien.
To defer this to the March meeting. Also like to reassure the community that none of these projects that were listed are under any sort of threat whatsoever. But anyway, a procedural motion.
Seconded by Councillor O'Connor. So I put that to the vote. Those in favour of deferring it? 5. Those against? Councillor Bailey, what are you, by not voting, you're voting against? Okay. So that's 5 for, 5 against. The procedural motion is lost.
What? No,
There was 5.
No.
He voted with me.
No, he didn't.
Didn't you? Yes, he did. Those, the division please, those in favour of deferring it. Yes. That's right. You got all them? That's 5. Those against? Councillor Martin, Councillor Bailey, Councillor Gray, Councillor Widders, and Councillor May. Councillor Robinson, you happy with the result? So, can I have a move and a second for the motion? Yes.
Can I?
Sorry, we have a move and a second.
I move that this
O'Connor?
motion be withdrawn.
And seconded by Councillor O'Brien. Procedure motion? Then I'll take it. So I'll put that to vote. Those in favour of being withdrawn? Carried. (8.6). Councillor Gray.
Can I move an amendment to 8.6 that be approved?
Let's just before you do, let's get a mover and a second, and then you.
I'll move it. I'll move it.
O'Connor. O'Brien. So, Councillor Gray, your amendment.
That just at the end, after 2020, at their own cost.
Do I have a second? Councillor Martin. Councillor Gray.
I believe that there's a lot of attendance to training, and it's not for me to say who's had allowances or whatever, but I believe that this type of conference is not necessarily within the scope of the councillors' committees, bearing in mind some of the things that have been withdrawn today. So if they want to attend, go at their own cost.
Councillor Martin, no comment. Speaker against the amendment.
Me.
Councillor Bryan, sorry.
Well, first of all, there's so much here. One, who decides whether it's relevant to your committee or not? I'm in the Aboriginal Advisory Committee, and I've been talking extensively with Aboriginal groups about tourist opportunities and Aboriginal heritage and Aboriginal culture. And many of them have asked me to find out what's going on in other areas. So to say that's not in my area is just outrageous. Secondly, I've never been, I've had, other than the local government conferences, I haven't been to any other thing. And I definitely couldn't afford it. It's something I'm doing, this is not what I'd love to. I'd rather go to a concert, rather stay home and watch TV. But this is something I would love to know more about so that I can work within council to encourage tourism here. And anyway, the other thing is that tourism isn't just a business thing or an economic thing in the strictest sense. All those tourist opportunities affect job opportunities right through the stratas of the Armadale region. And I'd like to see people who have been unemployed for a long time get opportunities. Aboriginal people get lots of opportunities. To say that you're doing this for some sort of personal lark or something is just really offensive and insulting. I don't necessarily would love to go to these things, but I think that it'd be an important part of my job to understand what's going on in tourism. And I couldn't afford it. I don't have that kind of money where I could do that. And I don't understand a fellow councillor trying to stop opportunities for other councillors from learning about things that can improve their community. We have an allocation. I haven't had it. Outrageous.
A speaker for the amendment.
Can I ask a question, please? We got given $2,500 to go towards these types of things. I think some of us gave it to the fire funding, the bushfire crew and stuff like that. Do many of us councillors have any money in it? Is it a financial year where we get our allotments given to us, or is it a new year, a calendar year? Thank you, big man.
Councillor, the funding is based on a financial year. So at the start of 1st July, the allocation should be there for you again. So, yeah, depends on the budget, of course. So, does that answer your question? Councillor Witters, yeah.
It does. So there'd be a lot of us that wouldn't have any money left. Correct? We can.
So, Councillor Witters.
Thank you for that.
We're after someone speaking for the amendment.
Mm-hmm. And this might not be for the amendment, but it might be another foreshadowed something else. I'm just concerned that there might be other councillors that would like to attend this tourism conference, and that, along with every other thing that's come up like this, that it should go to a vote of the councillors on who attends. There might be more than the two nominated people up there that would like to attend this meeting, whether it's at their own cost or whether it's at a council cost. But if there's anyone else that sits around the table here that would like to go, they basically haven't had their chance to say, yeah, I'd like to go as well. So if that's not part of this, then I foreshadow a thing that there should be a vote and a nomination if anyone else would like to go to it.
A speaker against the amendment?
Point of order, Mr Mayor. Wouldn't it be simple if somebody else wants to go to move an amendment, so it says the councillors O'Brien, O'Connor and Flogmere Watts want to go to this tourism conference. All you have to do is move an amendment.
Do you wish to move it? Did you wish to move such an amendment, Councillor Bailey? A speaker against the motion, or the amendment? Otherwise, I'll put it to Councillor Gray.
I'd just like to speak against it. I'm as flabbergasted as Councillor O'Brien in the sense that there's an allocation. I support what Councillor O'Brien has said. We have to extend ourselves, and we've all heard that we've had bushfires in this region. Our major tourism proposition in this area has been burnt to a crisp, basically the gorges. Please let us go so we can. I can't afford it either. I mean, I've self-funded an enormous amount. I can't afford to self-fund this, so I'm asking my fellow councillors to support me in going to this, bringing back a report. I went to one of these many years ago and actually did a full typed-up transcript of the entire conference, which was very much appreciated around the community. I promise to bring back a report. Please, let us go.
A speaker...
Can I foreshadow or amendment to that amendment?
No. Where are we up to? Speaker 4? Okay, Councillor Gray, your right to reply.
I do believe that it warrants more something of the regional growth place activation. I don't wish to attend. I do agree with Councillor Witter's comments around other people having the opportunity to attend these, or at least be offered the opportunity. And it may be worthwhile considering that at their own cost, if their allowance for professional development has been exhausted. So I'll foreshadow that.
Okay, I'll put the amendment to the vote. Those people in favour of the amendment? Those people against? The amendment's lost. So, Councillor O'Connor?
Can I foreshadow, can I put an amendment that we, if there is anyone else that would like to attend, that we have a vote for those, and nomination, can we have nominations and a vote on if anyone else would like to attend? As an amendment, please.
A seconder for that? Councillor Gray. So, Councillor Witters, your reasoning?
I don't know whether there is anyone, but just to give, as I said, to give them an opportunity. There might be someone else that sits around here, like that wants to go to that and hasn't been given the opportunity to go to it. So if there's not, that's fine. But it's just all's fair in love in war, everyone. We've done it before, and we'll do it again. And so that'll do me for the moment.
Councillor Witters, just clarify for Haley's purpose.
Yep.
The amendment.
The amendment is for nominations to be put forward if anyone else would like to add their name to attend that conference, and if there is anyone else that would like to put their nomination forward, that goes to a vote of councillors. Was that slow enough? Hope so. It's up to you guys. Like all 10 or 11 of us. I don't care. It's just whoever wants. It's there to make it fair of all the other processes that we've gone through.
Just a minute. This is amendment though, and it's been moved and seconded.
Again.
So
I'd like to ask something without having everyone yelling at me. I know.
Councillor Witters.
It's good fun, and you'd like to do it. But
Councillor Witters, just
thank you.
Have you got all that, Haley? So, Councillor Witters, have you finished speaking for? Yeah. Councillor Gray?
Mr. Mayor, I'll move that the matters be put.
Okay, I'll put that then. Those in favour of the amendment of the whole matter? No, the amendment. Did you want the? Do you want the motion as it is, or the amendment, Councillor Tyler? Because the amendment has been moved and seconded.
That the matters, plural, be put. So you put the amendment first, then the motion.
Yeah. So, amendment. Those people in favour of the amendment? Five. Those people against? So it's 5-all. Can I give a division, please? Because I think someone might have voted twice. So, those in favour of the amendment. Councillors Martin, Gray, Witters, O'Brien and Murray. Those against the amendment, Tiley, Gillespie, Robinson, Bailey and O'Connor. And therefore, if that's the case, I'll move that that amendment is accepted. So, are there any others that would, councillors that want to go to the tourism conference? Okay, if there's none, I will therefore put the original motion. Those people in favour, and a division too, please. Those people in favour of the original motion? Everyone but? You got all those down? Those people against? Martin, Murray and Gray. Thank you. Item 8.7. 8.7, Transformation Project Report. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Gray.
Oh, you can do it.
Councillor Witters. Councillor Gray.
The only reason I'm supporting this motion is because I believe it has been responded to through the questions on notice. I don't think that there is anything more that needs to be done other than compiling those responses into one. Yet again, it is another example of micromanaging the CEO, pulling her away from getting on with her job.
Councillor Witters.
I wrote in my notes refer to questions on notice, which I think supports Councillor Gray's comments in and around this. So I think I'll do that.
Speaker against the motion? Okay, I'll put it to the vote. Those people in favour of the vote, the motion? Those people against? Councillor Robinson, you against or you for? Passed. So moving on to item 8.8, the standards of code of conduct. Can I move it, please, Councillor Gray? Hang on, if we can get someone to second, Councillor Robinson. Councillor Gray? Councillor Robinson, you happy with that? You are? Yep. Okay. Councillor Gray?
I think the motion speaks for itself.
Where do you want to insert that?
You already said yes. So.
Oh, we didn't understand what this.
Councillor Gray, did you want? Okay, Councillor Gray, there's an amendment to it, so.
I just believe that stopping it after the word act, it's self-explanatory. We should be doing the whole of it, not just media, public relations, etc. It's what we're supposed to do as councillors, and it's said and done just in that one sentence.
Just before we move on, I do need a second, Councillor Witters. So, Councillor Witters?
Yep, because the original seconder removed, I'll second to keep it going. And just to agree there. It's a bit like the speed limit. Just because the speed limit's 100, you don't have to do 100. And I suppose if there's a word limit, you can get it done in less than the word limit and still say the same thing. That's great.
A speaker against the amendment? Okay, I'll put the amendment. Those people in favour of the amendment? 3. Those people against? The amendment's lost. So, Councillor Gray, you've spoken for the motion. Do you wish to speak for the motion in its entirety?
No, I do not wish to.
Councillor Robinson?
Well, the only thing I would like to say is that all we're doing is talking about compliance with the Local Government Act. And any councillor who didn't want to comply with the Local Government Act would be negligent of their duty. So all we're doing is noting the obligation under the Act, and that should be a simple thing that we should all support.
A speaker against? Otherwise, I'll put the vote. Those in favour? Carried. Item 8.9, additional resources for green waste. Move it or seconder. Councillor Robinson. Councillor O'Brien. Councillor Robinson.
Well, this would be a very valid and useful use of the funds made available for drought stimulus and recovery, and would benefit the contractors of this service. And part of our job as councillors is to listen to the community. I've heard several requests for additional green waste because of because of the problems that people, residents have had with their gardens. It's not just one person that said this, it's several people. And our job is to listen to the community. And it would certainly be a very, very valid but low-cost use of the $900,000 drought package. And it will benefit residents. It will reduce the fire hazard from dead plant material. It will benefit the local contractor and provide mulch that will help reduce future water needs. So it's a win for residents, a win for the environment, a win for the contractor, and a win that will help reduce future needs and buffer us against future droughts. Who could ask for more?
Councillor Robinson, just to clarify, you did say $90,000.
900,000.
That's the announcement from the local minister. Can I ask the CEO to clarify on the matter?
Certainly, I'm not quite sure what I'm clarifying. There has been a drought stimulus package been announced by our local member, which amounts to some $900,000 to come to this council. The projects need to be considered by council, obviously, and agreed by the Department of Premier and Cabinet and the officials there. Certainly, if this matter is one which the council wishes to have considered by the Department of Premier and Cabinet, we will obviously put it to them.
So, councillors, I might take discretion and request that because we have not put together a list of projects for this grant, may I request that all of these ones go towards that and they be assessed according to a council decision in the future. So, Councillor Robinson, would you be happy with that?
I'll accept that.
So would you like to just withdraw this?
Okay, I'll withdraw it, well, subject to it being debated in the near future.
Councillor Robinson, if it's not there, I'm sure you will make sure it will be there. So thank you. Item 8.10, mover and seconder.
Well, I'd like to move given the staff report, I would like to actually remove an amended motion, if that's okay. And the amendment is that council thanks everyone involved in scheduling the promised cycleway signage. Involved in scheduling the promised cycleway signage.
Yeah. So it's Councillor Robinson's moved. Seconder?
Yeah, well let me finish the motion I'm actually moving. It's not an amendment. We're perfectly entitled to move a different motion to the one put up, as far as I understand the Code of Meeting Practice. And this is the variant of the motion, that council thanks everyone involved in scheduling the promised cycleway signage. And notes the benefits that will accrue from their installation before July 2020. And that's all. It's been promised in the staff report, so we'll look forward to seeing it. So that's the motion I'm moving, assuming we get a seconder.
No, I have a question. So in around this, just a bit of a clarification, and maybe my question I can see come across a certain way, but as a councillor who likes to make my decisions through questions and not look at other people on which way to vote or have a predetermined voting schedule, I need to ask these questions to make sure I get the right decisions done. Just in regards to your comment to the last one about the funding being workshopped for councillors, does this motion fit around that as well, or I've just got here in my notes already happening from the management's comments, but does the funding need to be workshopped, but through the councillors? I suppose it's a question for the CEO or.
Councillor Winters, I believe there's already, as described, this money already allocated for this. Yeah, that's what I've already happened. So, Councillor O'Brien? Oh, sorry, Councillor Robinson, you finished with?
Been seconded.
Yep. Councillor O'Brien? Anyone who wishes to speak against? I'll put that. Those in favour? Carried. Councillors 8.11, which is oversight of briefs to consultants. Mover or seconder?
Yeah, I'd like to withdraw it, please.
Withdrawn. 8.12, terms of reference of chairs and advisory committees. A mover and a seconder, or are you withdrawing that? Or
I'll move it, but I'd also like to ask a question in relation to Resolution 273/19 in December 2019.
Sorry?
In relation to, in relation, as well as, well, would you want to debate those two first, or?
Yes. So do I have a seconder? O'Brien. Councillor Robinson?
Well, I think this basically is something that we should note the terms of reference, and we all know the terms of reference now, so why not? So it would be very silly not to note them if we know them and we've read them, so we can't unnote something we've read, therefore just let's leave the obvious as it is.
Councillor Robinson, you may have to say that again, because there's three of us here that did not understand anything you said.
Well, I'll just reserve my right to reply then if there's any.
Councillor O'Brien?
I think what Councillor Robinson is saying is this is already part of our meeting practice, what do you call it? Meeting terms of reference. And so that I'm sure she's trying to say that perhaps they're not being followed and that we should note what the rules are. Am I right?
No, someone wish to speak against? If not, I'll put that. Councillor Gray?
I just have a question. I'm just wondering if we can get clarification on the terms of reference, where I think there's a clause that says the mayor can choose the chair. I think. Or do you want to take that on notice?
Thank you, Dr. Mayor. If I can just clarify, it is in some terms of reference of some advisory committees, the Mayor has the ability to select the chair. It's not so in the terms of reference for the Environmental Sustainability Advisory Committee. I think the prior report in relation to the terms of reference of the working parties, the issue there was very clearly the staff and the minute takers were wanting the terms of reference to be adhered to as the terms of reference of the Environmental Sustainability Advisory Committee were not amended, and as they stood, did not enable it to develop its own or establish its own working parties.
Councillor Withers.
Are we up to the speak against? Yeah. Looking at this motion, it seems it's in response to the information given in 13.7, which, and I could be wrong. I'm happy to, if ever proven that way, it doesn't matter. But with what's been written in 13.7 and considering who the author of this motion is, I think just is there actually anything in it, or is this a point to say something against 13.7?
A speaker for the motion. Councillor Robinson, your right to reply.
Is
Okay, I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? 4, 5, 6. Those against? 5.
And before you close the meeting, could I ask for clarification about Resolution 273?
Councillor, we have not closed the meeting yet.
Yeah, that's why I said before you close the meeting. I'd like a formal clarification of Resolution...
Just a minute. Let's just wait until we get to... We've got another item, which is 18, questions on notice. Now, all of these questions on notice have been answered. All of them. So now, Councillor Robinson, your question?
Well, my question was in relation to Resolution 273/19 on the 11th of December, which said that council committees are able to establish working groups to progress matters within the committee's terms of reference, and that the formation of such working groups was at the discretion of the committee. Now, my understanding of that was that that automatically changed the terms of reference of council committees. And can you explain why it didn't? Because otherwise that motion would have been unlawful.
Councillor Robinson, we'll take that on notice because... Yeah, take it on notice. Now, one thing I forgot to do is, can I have a move and a seconder that all motions passed in the closed session be accepted under the open, please? Councillor Withers, Councillor Tiley, those in favour? Carried. Councillors, there being no more business, I would like to close the meeting, so could I move and seconder? Councillor Withers, Councillor Carton, all those in favour? Thank you.